After 3 rounds of racing, we have seen the points lead take shape for Terry Crouch. And yes, Reinhard Heibel has been putting in the work, but he simply has not made up enough points yet. Can he make up enough points, potentially, to get to Terry Crouch by the end of the season? That is up in the air. In the amateur side, it is all Ed Sancinelli as we head into round number 4, down under at Mount Panorama Circuit. Welcome to Pit Stop TV. Unfortunately, little bit of bad news to start off the show. Justin Prince not able to join me today. He is mostly okay. I say mostly. He is under the weather today, so I do hope that Justin gets well, if he's listening, of course. Justin, glad you're taking your rest. We'll happily have you back next week when we go to Okayama International Circuit. But as you saw, we are located, of course, way down under this afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it. Depends on where you are, I suppose. And let's do that one more time. Let's take the little trip across the world down here to Australia. It is a good day to be at Bathurst, that is for sure. As you can see the track there out of the countryside, and welcome to the sim. Let's take a look at the track map. Of course, well, it is that mountain road that starts off at Griffin's Bend, heads up to the cutting and around Griffin's Mount. And I really enjoy downforce cars here. This morning I've actually been taking practice laps myself in the Nissan GTP. And of course, it's an older car. It's a little more analog, a little bit like this radical SR8 that we have on track today, just a little bit faster. So for me, it's easier to drive here. The Radical is a really difficult car on tracks like Bathurst. Radical SR8 fast lap time this week set by Gregor Thompson out of Great Britain. It is a 1:57.195, and well, we're about a second off of that so far for Terry Crouch, as he has bested everybody in practice as per usual at a 1:58.163. Let's take a look at those point standings. As you can see, Terry Crouch way out ahead of everybody else, as we've gotten very used to. Well, gets even faster in practice. 1:58.014 might break into the 1:57s before the session is over. And 9 points of Randall White. That might not seem like a lot, but this points spread has been tightened up to only give a few points per position, basically. So it's a lot more difficult to make up those spots. And you can see third place, Pete Snake, 20 points back, with Andrew Slissons there in fourth at 24 back. 28 back, you'll find David Clymer. And then finally, Reinhard Heibel tied. Sorry, I thought he was in a tie, I guess. One behind David Clymer. Anyways, right there in that sixth spot. And very close, right through the mid-pack of that pro category. Over in M, Chris Schultheis, actually, not Ed Zancinelli. I'm used to Ed Zancinelli running a show there. Chris Schultheis running the show, 97 points, 13 up on Dustin Oberlo, Callum McLeod, and Olaf Sarnquist, who entered today in a three-way tie. And that's rare. They have a three-way tie on iRacing, especially for the second spot in the standings. Now, I know there's some of you guys viewing. We're going to break the fourth wall for a second. Steam King, if you wanted to join the Discord, by all means, join us in the broadcast booth. Or join me in the broadcast booth if you would like. I see some of you guys checking in over on YouTube. I'll bring up Twitch in a second. Tom Jones, Red Spike, glad to have you guys here as we take a look at the point standings. Kind of excited. These solo broadcasts are always a little bit different for me. It feels more like I can talk to the viewers and can kind of have that kind of conversation than when we do it TV style with a couple of commentators, but love doing it either way. I will say, when I was making this points graphic earlier today, I really noticed that Ken Estep, Nicholas Batista, Mike Nickham, all very close as well. Those guys could flip-flop a lot today. Phil Scrutton could grab some points if he's in the field. I don't see Phil yet. Hopefully he joins us later today or for next week. And there you see Terry Crouch getting oh so close to that 1:58 flat mark. And I don't see Reinhard Heibel in the field either, which is really going to shake things up as far as our expectation of him potentially catching Terry Crouch. I think it's really Terry's championship to lose, so long as he keeps himself together in these last, well, I say last, the back half of the season. Here's a look at the schedule. 10 races in total. On through Spa, Zandvoort in Spain, Bathurst today. It was under the lights at Spain last week. Okayama next week, then Japan. Well, 2 Japanese races for 5 and 6. Then Long Beach, Canada, Elkhart Lake, and Brazil. Terry Crouch, of course, fastest of the bunch on track in car 59. No surprise. And let's ride on board with the madman himself, see just how he gets it done here at Bathurst. This is a tricky place. It really is, of course. It is a mountain road that goes up over the top of Mount Panorama. That said, this is a downforce car. It's a little more nimble. You can rely on the car a little more than some other machines. Other cars, GT3 for example, in the 12-hour here, you're really relying on mechanical grip, more so coming from the tires. But that aero grip really, really helps you in a car like the Radical, and you can actually go faster with it as well. It doesn't really seem like it. It's kind of a slower car in terms of road racing, but the downforce that helps you out in these corners really does make a huge, huge difference. And into the pit lane will Terry Crouch go. This is going to be a big topic, I think, this pit lane later in the day for pit stops. It's going to be a difficult place to navigate, as there's Oldest Pudiclus through Forest Elbow. David Clymer also on track in car 242, a pro driver. And it's an all-pro top 7 before you get down to Dan Klar in the 8th position over Chris Schultheis by nearly a half second. Ola Sarnquist also in the AM category, your top 3, 8th, 9th, and 10th on the overall board. Sarnquist 10th, another 10th and a half back of Schultheis. Call it 6.5 tenths then back from Dan Klar. Ed Sancinelli, I mistakenly called him the amateur points leader a little while ago. He is in pro now. 13th currently on the practice charts. Ken Step also, a little bit of damage there for car 66. He's still down in AM and just ahead of Mike Nickham, who just went a bit faster across the line in car 56, hopping over Brandon Carl. Nicholas Batista having some trouble down there in 19th, and Christian Clark in car 72. Almost said 72nd, and that would not be where he wants to be, but 20th position, waiting on a time to roll in. See if he gets one here, and that lap, well, it would have been a 2:18.155. He will not get a lap of record in this practice session as we roll things down. Weather conditions in the sim, by the way. 81 degrees in the air, 87 degrees on track. Partly cloudy, mostly cloudy. Now, wherever you're watching from, I invite you to follow along with Pit Stop TV on all social media. We have a few different platforms available for your viewing pleasure, be it Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch even, the whole lot of them. And of course, we are live currently to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. We thank all of you who are watching. Terry Crouch first out on the track just about, and yeah, it looks that way. No surprise there. Everybody going to try and follow car 59 up the hill. Here's the onboard. Let's see how he gets it done. Don't mind the fizz. That was a fresh start being opened. I really enjoy what Terry's doing on this outlap. He's actually pushing. A lot of guys might go a little slower, but he is trying to get these tires up to temp. Over Skyline, down into the dipper here in a second. Navigating nicely. He's pushing, but he's not going too hard. And I think that's a pretty good strat. Your opening lap, your out lap, get these tires up to temperature. You need them up to temperature, especially in this car, or you're just not going to have grip when you come back around. At least not the grip you need. And I feel like there's a window as well. Some of the drivers in the series might be able to maybe shed a little more light potentially, but I feel like there's a window. As with most cars probably, but a window certainly of really good tire temp and really bad tire temp. And it changes really, really quickly. You got to take advantage of it pretty quick. Here's Terry Crouch through the chase. We'll go back on board with car 59 as he begins his first flying lap. Good to see Amir Assad, by the way, in the session, playing a little bit of admin, I believe, testing some things out. So Amir, glad to have you back stateside. Terry Crouch, beautiful run there through Hell's Corner, under the Petters crossover, if you will, or signage, whatever, and into turn number 2. This is really tricky. You're flat out for half a lap or more, and then you get down to that really tricky braking zone and kind of half-banked corner. Then the cutting is even more tricky. One of my favorite corners in the whole racetrack, though. The cutting and the dipper. Really solid opening here from Terry to qualifying. That was a little bit of a bleed off the throttle. Could have been a little more committed through that little section. But managing it well into Skyline. Here's the dipper. Right here. Could have been closer. So I think, as you would expect, there's still time on the racetrack for Terry. This is not going to be the perfect lap first time out. Forest Elbow a little tight on entry. Could have maximized exit a little better if he entered a little more wide, but really solid opening for Terry's qualifying run. Here's Chris Generelli. Dan Clarn, car 114. Let's go down the order here. Aldis Pudeklitz just came across the line to open up lap number 1. Andrew Slizen's already through turn 2 and headed to the cutting for the Kingsman Racing 99. Sean Cole on lap 1 as well as he heads through the dipper. Beautiful shot there, just ahead of another car. Here's James Dowling in the Pennzoil number 4. All while Terry heads down the mountain. And actually already out of the final corner. That first lap of record for Terry Crouch, let's see what it is. A 1:58.412, yeah, so a few tenths there on the track. You can see some left front damage after I think he popped it off a couple of curbs that opening out lap. Generelli, nearly 2 seconds off, and Generelli was second in practice. That is a big mark that he has got to tighten up. David Clymer, straight to second, just faster than Generelli. Ola Sarnquist to 5th. James Dowling to 4th. Here's the onboard with car 242, David Clymer, as he climbs up the mountain. Now, I don't know about you guys watching, of course, it's always appreciated on a broadcast to have commentary, but sometimes I love those moments where commentators just go silent. Allow you to listen to the car, especially up through the gears, down through the gears, through corners at places like Bathurst. Clymer, beautiful run there through the dipper. Really enjoyed that. And down to Forest Elbow. Let's see if it can be just as nice. Car 242 trying to push here. As Aldis Pudeklitz goes to second, you can see Clymer's drop down the order behind Slizen, Snake, and now Pudeklitz. As cars keep getting faster, Pete Snake that first lap. 2 minute 2:88. The only other driver in the 159 is Aldis at a 1:59.100. Even he's got some work to do to Terry Crouch, who was just wrapping up his second lap, and that lap slower. Aldis on board. Oh, one car spun. And Generelli, second. Just exited turn number 1, just picked up a ton of time, within 3/10 now of Terry Crouch. Clymer now 4th. Yeah, those times are starting to roll in. Tires are up temp. Let's check out Randall White on track. This is lap 2 for Randall. Some damage maybe to the right front. It looks that way. Let's see what Randall can do here. Down to the final corner for his lap, Murray's corner. This is lap 2. He's got at least 2 more, I think, in the run here. 1:58.9.818. That is good for 4th. Straight out the bag, if you will. Ahead of David Clymer at a 2-minute 080. Pete Snake at a 2-minute 288. And Slizen's just picked up a bunch, just under the 2-minute mark. Chris Schultheis just got a lot faster. Your amateur points leader. A couple of wins to his name so far this season. Olaf Sarnquist still faster, though, by just under 1/10 of a second. Here's Sarnquist. Let's go on board. Into the dipper. Beautiful stuff. And Pudeklitz faster, second. That's going to do that lap for Ola Sarnquist. Might be cooling those tires down. Here comes James Dowling to go by. Terry Crouch back on track, going to wrap up that lap, and he finally picks up some time. 1:58.255. A bit free there out of turn 1. We'll see if he has anything for a faster lap. Generelli quicker to a 1:58.589, so picks up a bit over Aldous Puticlis, and I think Aldous might be done. Oh no, Randall White, look at that damage. That is not going to cut it. Andrew Slizzon's damage as well. Oxenzoller on track. I know we've got some Oxenzoller fans in the chat, especially over on YouTube. No time yet for Warhart, but the James May Racing number 75 should have one this time by. Here's the onboard into Murray's Bend. Oh, too much curbing. That's a easy mistake to make there. Certainly can't knock him there. Christian Clark on track. Car 72 just left the cutting. Properly headed up the mountain now, over the top of it, if you will. He's also on lap number 2, hoping to at least get one lap of record as Ola Sarnquist sits as his class pole sitter. And the big thing here for Christian, if he's able to get even one lap to count, that'll move him ahead of Oxenzoller, Carl, and Nickums. That would move him up to 17th on the starting grid and really help him out with a couple of those early passes that he would have to make otherwise. That's why it's so important, even if it's a slow lap, guys, get a lap in. Get at least one clean lap straight out in the bag. Just get it in, get it down, and you're already beating the guys that didn't qualify. Down into the chase now for Christian Clark. Heavy on the brakes here. Into second gear. Terry Crouch of 1:58.201. No surprise that he picks up 3 extra minutes to finish up some laps. Generally might have something still. He's only 4/10 off. Christian Clark into the final corner. Let's see what he can do. If he can get a time down, it won't be anything better than 17th, but will it at least count? That's the mark. Yes, 17th on the board now for Christian Clark. Admirable effort there as Oxenzoller now continued on with those tires through Forrest Alba. We'll see if he can get a lap in. No time for Chris Generelli. Here's Randall White. Headed down into the chase. Pete Snake on track as well across the line there. Breaks under the 2-minute barrier. That'll put him 4th ahead of Randall White and Andrew Slizzons. Sanchinelli also on track into the chase. And here's Randall White, I believe, the final corner. Yes, Murray's Bend as Batista goes faster, 15th. Randall White across the line, and he picks up about a 10th or more. And that will put him 4th ahead of Pete Snake. Beautiful stuff. Sanchinelli across the line, picks up, goes 12th. Oxenzoller gets one in, he goes 15th. That puts him ahead of Nick Batista, Kenny Stepp, and Christian Clark. A bunch of buzzer beaters there. And right at the back end of our qualifying session. Props to all those drivers. They got a time in right at the end of that session. That's difficult to do, a lot of pressure. Well, as the qualifying session ticks down, once again, glad to have you watching along here. And for those of you guys watching on YouTube, Twitch, wherever you're watching from, even tweet at us, but comment out in the chat, what is your favorite corner? If you've run laps at the chase, at Bathurst before, whether it's iRacing, Forza, Gran Turismo if they've got it, Assetto Corsa, whatever sim is your choice. If you've run laps at Bathurst before, what is your favorite corner here? I'd actually love to know. I think that would be some great conversation for today. It'd be difficult for me to pick between the cutting, the dipper, and Forest Elbow. And I think Forest Elbow would go 3rd of those. But it would at least be in the running. The dipper and the cutting, I'm just not so sure if I could really... I think as a sequence, the run from Skyline down through the dipper Those 4 corners, 5, whatever it is, that's probably my favorite piece of racetrack from any racetrack. But the cutting as a single corner might be a little more fun, a little more tricky to get perfectly right. The dipper is a little more straightforward because it's slower speed, but the cutting is just so fast on entry. It's definitely difficult. That'll do it for qualifying. 20 cars in all, 21 with Amir Assad if you count him. But he is running some admin duties. And let's run through your starting order. On pole from Bathurst for round number 4, Terry Crouch. Once again, car 59, oh so quick. Here in the Simpit Radical Series. Christian Generelli will start from 2nd. Aldous Puticlis from 3rd position. Randall White from 4th. Pete Snake will start from 5th. Andrew Slizens will start from 6th. Starting 7th, that's David Clymer in car 242. Sean Cole himself will start from 8th in row 4. James Dowling will start from 9th, and Chris Schultheis will be your amateur pole sitter today, starting from 10th, just beating out Ola Sarnquist. Starting 11th is Ola Sarnquist. 12th, Ed Santinelli, last season's amateur champion. Callum McLeod in that team, or tie rather, for 3rd place in the amateur standings, or 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. McLeod will start from 13th, Dan Clark from 14th. Starting 15th, it's Oxen Zoller. Nicholas Batista will start from 16th spot. Kenny Sett there from 17th. Christian Clark from 18th. Mike Nickum and Brandon Carl round out the rest of the field. Yeah, Mirasad, the cutting for me, yeah. And then Forest Elbow. They are just really brilliant corners. And we need more mountain road racetracks like that. Like, if you could take sections of Pikes Peak and Mount Washington and turn that into a circuit, that'd be really fun racing, at least lapping. Maybe not racing all the time, but at least lapping for sure. As we await the grid to roll off in just a couple of more moments, let's take a look at the weather conditions. They have not changed much. Actually, the air temp coming down. We are in the afternoon in the session, so they could drop a little more, but I think it'll stay just about the same. Car is rolling off now from the grid. A reminder of where we sit with the championship standings. Terry Crouch 9 points up on Randall White. Pete Snake there in 3rd. Andrew Slizens in 4th. David Clymer 5th. Reinhard Heibel not here today. 6th place. Johnny Alford, I think, also not in the field. A couple of big missing drivers right there. But a big opportunity for Ed Santinelli and for Sean Cole to get some points and move up in the order over on the amateur side. Oberlo, McLeod, and Sarnquist in a tie. Oberlo not here today. McLeod and Sarnquist have an opportunity as Schultheis leads us to the green in amateur. Terry Crouch leads us to the green, though, overall. And just like that, we are green flag down under 1 hour of racing in Australia. Oh, a crash! Oxenzoller into some others, and Oxenzoller stopped. I see one other car, it looks like, crashing hard. That was Christian Clark, it looks like. Ed Santinelli, a lot of damage. And on lap 1, the Frito Sport 57 is completely mangled and messed up. Looks like Mike Nickum got through okay. Brandon Carl as well. Christian Clark, a lot of damage. Kenneth Stepp got through, it looks like, relatively all right. Nicholas Batista got some damage, I think, in the checkup. Dan Clark, Callum McLeod, they all get through fine. Your leader's down through the dipper for the first time. And to Forest Elbow we go. Pete Snake, it looks like, hounding one car. I think, anyways. There's that, no, that is Aldous Puticlis all over Chris Generelli. That is for 2nd spot as we head down Conrad for the first time. See if we can get the ticker fixed. There we go. Let's go on board with Puticlis, 3rd place, lap 1. Hard on the brakes into the chase. Maybe a little more downforce as Generelli kind of ran away from him from Forrest's elbow all the way down to the chase. Also could have been a time penalty on the way. Doubt it. I really do highly doubt that. It'd be difficult. I think I'd be more impressed if somebody did get a time penalty here than just about anywhere else. Sean Cole working on James Dowling as always, it seems like. And here's that battle as they'll go side by side into turn 1. This for the 8th position. Ola Sarnquist right behind him. Ola has taken over the lead position in amateur. That is big as Dowling has a pass here from Sean Cole. Already lap 2. These guys going at it side by side. Sean Cole on the outside. James Dowling inside. There goes Ola Sarnquist. Going to take the opportunity. Going to race with the pro guys for a little bit. I can't blame Ola here. This is a big, big opportunity for him to put some cars between himself and Chris Schultheis. And especially if he can put both of these two cars between himself and Schultheis. These two cars, Sean Cole and James Dowling, seem to always be around each other. So that would be a huge, huge bolster for Sarnquist's race. Into Skyline and the Dipper. This is very, very close between these guys. And getting closer on board with Sarnquist. All the while, Aldous Putiklis might have a run here down the Conrad Straight. Looks like no dice, but it was certainly shaping up to be something. Here comes Sean Cole. Let's see who has the downforce advantage, straight line advantage. Sean's going to pull out, and you know what? He did the same thing to James Dowling. Not surprising here. Sean Cole, a lot of straight line speed today, but suffering a little bit in the corners, I think, from it. And into the chase, going to try and complete that pass, and he will. Nearly gets into the back end of the 34 car of Dowling. Really great racing as we complete lap 2, and whoa, what a round, it's Schultheis. That's a tough spot to be in. All the way down to 18th. Only ahead of Sanchinelli with all that damage from lap 1. And Auction Zoller in the same kind of predicament. Up ahead, Terry Crouch, position 1 over Chris Generelli in this fight with Aldous Putiklis. Sean Cole side by side again with James Dowling. Callum McLeod makes a pass here, contact, and we've got a big crash. Heavy hit there for Callum McLeod, and that is for the amateur lead. It has gotten spicy, and Callum trying to get turned around has the room to do it. Finally does, but I think that'll be short-lived. He might just end up towing back to the pit lane, and we'll see. Sarnquist's car looks pretty okay. I don't see much damage, but certainly reasonable to have expected a little bit of contact there, I suppose. Let's take a look back at it. Couple of side-by-side battles up to turn 2, and oh, Callum just got into the grass on his own. I really thought we were going to have contact to initiate it, but Callum with a mistake. And that's the kind of stuff you can't have happen when you're going for the lead in a championship. To the onboard of Callum McLeod. A beautiful run, beautifully set up. And just gets the grass under braking over into Ola Sarnquist and into the barriers rather aggressively. Sean Cole has finally gotten by James Dowling. We'll take a look at exactly how that happened into the chase when we come back now. Down Conrad, just got to run. Pulls over to the left side and right here just kind of powers into the corner. Out brakes James Dowling in the 34 car. And goes right on through. A beautiful pass there from Sean Cole. That is textbook how you do it here at Bathurst. Meanwhile, Aldous Putiklis still right in the wake of Chris Generelli. I think at this point, these guys both saving some fuel. Generelli trying to hold himself back a little bit. And Aldous Budaklis, of course, wants to stay behind him and save fuel down these long straightaways, but does he want to look? There's a pass here for 16th. Christian Clark goes on by, actually rather, for 15th. Mike Nickham goes by Christian Clark. Callum McLeod still racing. Crystal Theis back on track. Over Skyline, headed to the Dipper. Aldous Budaklis, pressure still on Generelli in the 7 car. This for second. Beautiful racing between these two. Aldous with a really good opportunity. We'll see here, really, if he actually wants it. Budaklis not taking the opportunity, sitting back. And I think definitely saving fuel. Only a 20-car race. This might be a round where some drivers could take some risks with the pit strategy, do something a little different in some situations, and try to find something as Crouch goes even faster. You know what? These two just will not get away from each other. I don't think we can really leave this. This is really good stuff. I think I'm most impressed with the fact that Aldous has been behind Generelli for 5 laps now, at least going on to 5 laps, and has not slipped up and hit him once. Problems, Dan Clark headed to the pit lane. And that is not what you want to see. Very quickly, Mike Nickham here working on Brandon Carl up the mountain straight. Chasing Ken a step as well to turn 2, and a look there from Nickham. Short-lived. And Dan Clark into his box. You see 4 cars in a row. They all started around each other. They were all out of the race. Budaklis backing off this lap. 10 minutes elapsed when we come back to the stripe, it looks like, or thereabouts anyways. And Terry Crouch has simply left the competition in his dust. 2.7 seconds and growing. Although he has started to bring that back. Whether it's him bringing it back or Generelli picking it up, I'm not sure yet. But that gap has come down just a little bit the last lap or so. And oh, Generelli picking up. A 158, 196 suddenly. That is unexpected. And I wonder then if Generelli has been thinking about fuel at all. I wonder as well if he's got a fuel number that he was trying to hit and already has hit it. I wonder if that was just kind of an anomaly. If maybe he's been pushing this whole time, not worried about fuel, and finally hit on something with tire temps, ran that lap. Terry Crouch certainly said, okay, I can do the same thing. I just worry about these two potentially. Oh, Aldous Budaklis hard on the fence. Oh no. A job well done ends in the concrete barrier for Aldous Budaklis, and all pressure I think is off of Chris Generelli at this point. That is a massive, massive impact for Aldous. Not just to the car, but to his day. Here's a look at it on board with Aldous. Really, really tough hit. Looking good over the top of the mountain. Into Skyline. Everything looks okay. Just entered a little too aggressively, I think. Just got a little too hot in there. Again, that section of racetrack that is just so much fun to run, but so easy to get wrong as Crouch fires back with another fast lap by 1/1000th of a second over Generelli. And Aldous Pudiclis is taking it to the pit lane. Here's a look back at it again. Just got in deep on the binders hard and pow, wall. Generally back off a second now from Terry Crouch, an extra second from where he was anyways. As here's a look at the midfield. Nicholas Batista, Brandon Carl, Kenneth Stepp, Mike Nickum, Christian Clark all packed up. 5 cars in a row as they pass Oldest, who's now in the pit lane. Olaf Sarnquist now into the top 10 overall. Nickum takes a look there on Kenneth Stepp. No dice. Unfortunately, I think the best battle we had that could have shaped up is out the window. Just as it was getting interesting, slip up there out of Kenneth Stepp that opens the door. And the Moza Racing number 66 allows Nickum and Clark to go on by. Plays nicely there. And look at all of this damage, by the way, for Christian Clark's machine. It's going to be tough for him to hang on the rest of the afternoon. A lot of damage. Brandon Carl all over Nicholas Batista. This is for 10th now as things have really changed. Of course, with the exit of Aldous Pudiclis, we lost that fight between himself and Chris Generelli. We've gained a fight here with Nicholas Batista and Brandon Carl, but how long will this last? Also, cars getting back on the racetrack. Oxenzoller on. Santinelli back on the track. Oxenzoller, I think, just spun out of the pit lane, but gets back rolling as Carl makes a big move here. Brandon Carl for the 10th position. And move car 77 into the top 10. Fantastic move there through the chase. Batista to the pit lane. And you know what? The pit window might have just opened up a bit as Batista eases it through pit entry. He can go much harder than that, but opts to keep it nice and tidy. As I mentioned, Oxenzoller back on track. Might have spun a little bit when he was getting back on, but look at all that damage anyways. It's been a tough day for him. Santinelli back on track. 5 laps down. Dan Clark still awaiting some more repairs. Callum McLeod on track, though. 3 laps down. 17th spot. Trying to make up the laps to Aldous Pudiclis for 16th. Although the next driver in Callum's class would be Chris Schultheis. And this is a big, big issue for our point standings. Schultheis is going to drop significantly, I think. As far as his lead, at least. Might not drop out of the lead. He's got a nice, healthy lead over Oberlo and McLeod. Sarnquist, though, is looking really, really good. Might make up those points. Wow, I think 3 of the top 5 in trouble today. 1 not in the race. At least on the amateur side, just trying to count things. Phil Scruton. So 4 of the top 10 not even here. A look there at Schultheis through the chase. And I think it's clear that tires are starting to wear out. Even Pete Snake is now 1.2 seconds or so back from Randall White. Gaps are growing on the racetrack. Track temp still at 85 degrees. Some clouds overhead. Oh, problems. Christian Clark? Does he have problems, or he is pitting, rather? Okay. He's had some problems, though. Look at the damage to his number 72 car. It's been a rough afternoon, for sure, at the office. For many of these guys, I think Christian Clark, Kenneth Stepp, Crystal Theis, Nicholas Batista even has some damage. Aldous Pudcliffe, Kyle McLeod, Dan Clark, Ed Sanginelli, Wernhardt, Oxenzoller, and others. Even here, Andrew Slissons, he has clearly been in the fence at some point. You see all that right rear damage. The wing is bent. You shouldn't be able to see the end plate of the wing like that from this angle. Slizzins a move here on David Clymer. This for fifth, and Clymer allows him to go on by. So a new fifth place driver as Clymer falls back. Right behind these guys, they've got a lapped car. Now looks like the number 69 of Callum McLeod, and it is. Clark in the pits, I think, will be there for a while. It seems he may have come in for his repairs to his car. Pudcliffe now drops to 17th position. And here comes Dan Clark back on the track. Out front, it's all Terry Crouch as he runs through the dipper, heads down to the Forest Elbow here in a moment. 20 minutes nearly complete. In fact, 19 about 5 seconds ago. And Terry has left his competition behind. 5 seconds to Generelli in just 20 minutes of racing. In fact, a little bit less than 20 minutes of racing. And I wonder just how high this gap can grow. Hey, a bit of a more spread out race, a fewer cars, one less commentator in the booth. Let's take a look at just how Terry Crouch is getting it done. Let's fire up the sounds of the sim here for the Simpit Radical Series and just listen to Terry Crouch at work. That sounds of the sim moment brought to you by Gomez Sim Industries as Terry Crouch comes into the pit lane and wraps up his first stint on the racetrack. Generally may soon follow. Yes, he does. So Crouch will come into his box. Pit stops opening up. Batista pit 3 laps ago. Nickham pit that last time. Christian Clark pit recently. And there's Crouch into his box. Here comes Generelli. Everybody coming in. Randall White, Pete Snake, Andrus Slizens, David Clymer, Sean Cole coming in, James Dowling, fast into the box, or into the lane. Here comes Ola Sarnquist as Crouch will be pulling away in a moment. Drops down off the jacks, it looks like. Here comes Sarnquist, maximizing time. Brandon Carl looks like he should do the same. Yes, he will, as Generelli will leave. Randall White will be one of the next ones. Should be just before Pete Snake. Oh, Snake leaves early, and that will put him ahead of Randall White. Slizen's waiting to be released, and there he goes ahead of Dave Clymer in unison. Sean Cole dropping down off the jacks. There he goes. James Dowling as well. Ola Sarnquist leaving the box shortly. Brandon Carl in his box. Kenneth Stepp into the pit lane. Sarnquist waiting for the signal, and there he goes down off the jacks. Brandon Carl doing the same in about 2 more seconds, and there he goes. And out front, it is now an 8.2 second gap from Terry Crouch back to Generelli. The problem is cold tires for everybody is going to be difficult. We've learned in the last couple of weeks this is pretty much the strategy, and already Randall White has bended, it looks like. This is what I'm saying. It's going to be tough, and here comes the car up on him. That'll be, I believe... Actually, I'm not sure who that'll be. Sean Cole has come to a stop. He has crashed it on his outlap. Oh, my goodness. And he put it up on his lid. On the roll hoop. On board. Got to be careful on those cold tires. Apparently Sean Cole pushed it a little too hard. And right here, yep. Sulman Park. Makes sense. Tough piece of racetrack. Now, it's a good thing nobody was caught up in that, James Dowling or anybody else. We'll watch on from Dowling's perspective in all of this. Wow. Now, that might have happened to Sean Cole. We've got a battle forming for 4th. Andrus Slizens, Dave Clymer, as Randall White has dropped out of the order. And actually, let's get a look back at what happened to Randall White. Right around the same moment as Sean Cole had his issue. On board as well for Randall White out of Michigan. You can see him not too far behind Pete Snake, and yep, loose. Very similar situation. Beautiful job, though, locking it down. Beautiful work there from Randall White. One more look. The car just gets loose. Those cold tires. Wow. Really solid catch there from Randall. That could have been a lot worse. Could have gone rather poorly. And now the only car currently stopped at all is Sean Cole in the pit lane, as there's a look at Randall White. Dave Clymer and Andrus Slizens here down the chase. Down Conrad Straight into the chase. And no move that lap. Oxenzoller back on track. Pudiclis back on track. They're separated by 12 seconds. It's another 34 seconds up the road to Dan Clark. Then 8 seconds up to Ed Sanchinelli. So 17th through 20th could theoretically fight a little bit. And as we approach halfway, we're going to go Pit Stop TV side by side, but not before I recap where we're at. Terry Crouch leading the race, 9 seconds and change as he approaches Callum McLeod. What's going to happen here? Does Callum move over? Yes, he does. Chris Generelli second, Pete Snake third, then Andrew Slizens and Dave Clymer. They are the closest battle on the racetrack. Randall White, James Dowling, Ola Sarnquist, Brandon Carl, Mike Nickham, the rest of your top 10. Your amateur top 3 now populating that top 10. Then it's Kenneth Stapp, Nicholas Batista, Chris Schultheis, and Christian Clark all the way down. 1 lap down. Sean Cole out of the race, losing laps. Callum McLeod 3 laps down in 16th. Then Sanchinelli, Clark, Pudiclis, and Oxenzoller all have been out of the race at one point or another and are all back on the racetrack 5 laps down. As we will leave you with this battle on track now, Slizens and Clymer for 4th. Just a reminder of where we're at down in Australia at Mount Panorama Circuit, Bathurst, as it's more commonly known. 25 minutes and 50 seconds remain on our timer, and David Clymer has had some trouble recently finding the outside wall, it seems, and let's take a look back and get a look at what happened to David Clymer as he was battling with Andrus Slizens, who now has pressure from Randall White. Things are ever changing here in the Simpit Radical Series, and here's a look at the issue for David Clymer. Car 242 gets a pass here made on Andrus Slizens. This is while we were side by side. You see Slizens damage already. They had just passed Ed Sancinelli, and then watch here, right out of turn 2, Clymer just pounds the outside wall. Slizens nowhere to go initially. And that is why Slizens has been backed up into this fight with David Payne, because then you see the issue on corner exit, and that's where Clymer realizes he's got a big issue. So all of this now culminating in a pretty big fight, a pretty epic fight for 4th position, currently on track. Now inside of 25 minutes to go as we rejoin the action live here from Bathurst. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for sticking with us here through the break. It is certainly always appreciated. I hate to bring the bad news to you, all you Clymer fans out in the chat, but it was worth recapping for sure. As Randall White works here on Slizens, this for 4th position. Now up front, Generelli has been maintaining to Terry Crouch, a 9-second gap, but I think Crouch now trying to save some fuel as those lap times have come down a bit to 2-minute 9s, 2-minute 01s or so. At least the last lap for Terry Crouch was a 2-minute 0.9. Generelli's last lap, a 1:59.457. These guys, though, lapping the 2-minute 0.4s. Really cool onboard look here with Randall White. This really, I think, tells the story. It is a really good look at exactly what it's like on board and behind the wheel of one of these radicals. Christian Clark now, trouble. This is early in the lap. That's into the cutting, it looks like. So trouble there for car 72. He had been having a decent day trying to recover. Anyways. Yeah, let's take a look what happens here. Car 72 was running 13th spot. And just gets loose on exit. Big hit. Oh! That could have been a lot worse. A bit of a field recap. Terry Crouch, best of the bunch. No surprise. Reinhard Heibel, the only driver able to best him so far this season, but Terry simply cannot be stopped as far as anybody else in the field so far. The driver out of Texas showing that he is, well, I guess his skill level is bigger than everybody else, if you will, at least in this radical. I'd like to put him in GTE cars again and see if he would struggle or not, and see if maybe he's grown as a driver since that last season. He had so many weird moments last season, lots of bad luck. I wonder if it's just him as a driver growing. I know he's doing a lot more leagues these days, or if it's just properly his talent in this car. Could be a combination of the both. Generelli 9.5 seconds back out of New England in the 2nd spot, ahead of Pete Snake by about 18 seconds. And Pete in the 666 just running in 3rd. I think going to collect a pretty big points day so long as he keeps that car clean. He has so far. Really, all he's got to do is keep turning laps. 22 minutes to go. Just needs to keep all 4 wheels underneath him while Andrus Slizens continues to deal with the onslaught from Randall White. And this, again, a really, really fun battle to watch. Slizens in shallow there to Forrest Elbow. But nothing really changing on exit as Randall White not able to do anything with it. James Dowling, 6th position. Olar Sarnquist has a car in his back end that's old as Puticlus. That they should play nice. Brandon Carl in the 8th position. A career day for him so far. Keeping the car clean. 2nd place in class. 10 seconds back of Olar Sarnquist. Anything could still happen here in the amateur category, as we're seeing. We haven't had that big crash we were expecting last week. a fewer cars in the field, I think, will do that. But Brandon Carl needs to keep in it and play nice, because anything can still happen. Mike Nickum runs in the 9th position. 9.5 seconds back of Brandon Carl. Kenneth Stepp runs 10th. So now 4 amateur drivers in the top 10 by attrition alone. Props to each of these 4 guys. Sarnquist, Carl, Nickum, and Stepp, as James Dowling heads to the pit lane. It's an early stop, but this could be a strategy move as he blinks a little bit. Tires going on the 34 car. I don't know if I would have done the same. Here's Chris Schultheis running in the 12th position. Batista running in 11th. Colin McLeod 13th, trying to nurse that car back around. Batista and Schultheis, by the way, both 1 lap down, 19 seconds apart, 20 seconds apart. McLeod, the only car on his lap, will likely stay 13th unless he makes a mistake. Clymer, by the way, back on the racetrack, is 15th, and he's trying to stay ahead of Dan Clark. Really, he's trying to stay ahead of Aldous Puticlis. So he can give up the position of Dan Clark if he needs to, but he's got to stay ahead of Puticlis and Sancinelli, who are each about a lap behind him. There's Puticlis and Sancinelli. Randall White still in the back end of Andrew Slizzens. Nothing has changed as they head into Murray's. Actually, into Chase first. 19 minutes to go. Weather conditions, it's starting to cool down ever so slightly. 1/10 of a degree in the air, but 1 whole degree on track, as there's been a lot more shade the last 20 minutes or so. Definitely cooling down ever so slightly and starting to head into the later portions of the day. Not sure it's going to make much of a difference in the sim. Not sure it's going to make much of a difference for how these guys feel the racetrack and how these guys do, but it's cooling down. Dan Clark on the pit, 17th. The 2 closest battles are Andrews Slizzens and Randall White. This for 4th position. The next closest, Mike Nickum, James Dowling for 8th and 9th. They are 3.2 seconds apart, so this really is the action spot on the racetrack currently. That's why we're here. With 17.5 minutes to go, this is a very spread out field, a bit of a lighter car count this week. I think a few drivers intimidated by the racetrack choice for this slot on the schedule, but good news, next week, April 30th, we go to Okayama International Circuit, a free track for all members of iRacing.com. Then the Suzuka Circuit, very much not a free track, an old track though on iRacing for sure. Before we head to Long Beach on May 21st. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for round number 8, the day before Memorial Day here in the United States. Then Elkhart Lake and Brazil. With 16.5 minutes to go, the gap for the lead has opened up, by the way, to about 11 seconds. It varies from corner to corner as Generelli tries to chase down Terry Crouch. I think really, I say he tries to chase down. I say that because, of course, I'm a broadcaster. But realistically, there's no chasing down the 59 car. Generelli, if anything, is simply trying to hang on, finish this race and take home second place points, and maybe talk to us after the fact. There is no chasing down Terry Crouch at this point in the day. Same thing for Pete Snake at Generelli, really. Again, there's no chasing down Generelli from 24 seconds back. You just got to hang on and hope that you can play through attrition. If anything, you're hoping that one of the cars ahead of you makes a mistake, as Christian Clark, by the way, out of the race. Dan Clark out of the race officially. 5 and 6 laps down. It looks like they have called it. Mike Nickum into the pit lane, and this, I think, will kick off a spree of pit stops, as he is not alone. Here is our race leader, Terry Crouch, in the box, or in the pit lane. This the money stop lap. Let's see what Crouch can do with his box. Down to the final pit stall as he sat on pole. 15 minutes to go. And this is the operative lap for Terry Crouch. Generally stays out at least one lap. .43 seconds. Quick stop there for Terry Crouch. Just fuel. Pete Snake will see the same thing here for car 666. Slizzens will join him. Oh, and I like that entry for Andrus. That was beautiful. I was wondering how far these guys were going to push it. And I said earlier that it'd be a topic of conversation. It really hasn't been. Nobody's really made any mistakes coming out of the pit lane. I'm surprised. And it looks like hats off to this entire series. They have done their homework. They have gotten good, if you will, at getting into the pits, and I really do admire that. Not many leagues actually practice that sort of thing and get ready for that sort of thing. A lot of series drivers tend to just go into it blind and say, oh well, and that's that. Slizzens out of the pit lane, a bit of a slower stop though. Granted, it was better than Pete Snake's, but slower than Terry Crouch's. Ola Sarnquist into the pit lane, your amateur race leader. Carl is going to come in as well. Carl a bit slow at first, and certainly a bit slow there. Here comes Sarnquist. We'll see what the difference is between these two. This for the amateur race win. 10 or so seconds apart on the racetrack. It might be more after this. Carl into the box neatly. Oh, is he taking tires? Oh, no. Oh, no. Brandon. That is a big mistake. There goes Sarnquist after just 16 seconds. Carl still in the... No, actually... Oh, he's taking front tires. Okay, I take that back. We'll see if this works out for Brandon Carl. It was actually a faster stop by about a half second. And if that pays off with these higher track temps, that might be a strategy. I take it back. Clearly, Brandon did his homework, as Generelli is in his box. No tires here. Randall White into the box. Or into the pit lane anyway. I keep saying box. Into the pit lane. Generally stopped about a half second slower than Terry Crouch. The only cars remaining really to pit are Kenneth Stepp and maybe Ed Sancinelli. Otherwise, everybody should be good to the end with just 12 minutes to go. Here's Kenneth Stepp headed down through Forest Elbow now. As Randall White pulls away from his box, 15.73 seconds, and that is a big-time gain. That puts him well ahead of Andrus Slizzens for 5th position, well, for 4th, really, for Randall. That is a big-time gain, and I think that is where being teammates with Terry Crouch pays off, because I'm sure that Terry was in his ear, hey, calm down, sitting there in that spot, save fuel. And you see the effect. Slizzens not able to save fuel. White able to, and Randall White has nearly 2 seconds on this 99 car for position as there's a battle behind. I say a battle. Well, a switching of position as Kenneth Stepp comes into the pit lane and will take service. Kenneth Stepp into the box, and this should be a nice quick stop for him, as now Mike Nickum has gone 1 lap down. And there is Terry Crouch. He has lapped up to 8th position, and he's closing in on Brandon Carl. Crouch is headed into turn number 2 now. Brandon Carl headed into the cutting. And there isn't much more to say, I'll be honest. You know, we broadcasters, we find everything we can. I've been looking all over time and scoring. The closest battle is, once again, White and Slizens, now just in reverse order. But this field, the way things have worked out, some attrition early on, is very, very split apart. It's 14 seconds between your top two, 29 seconds between second and third, another 7 seconds back to fourth, a second and a half back to fifth. That's your closest fight on the racetrack. Then 36 seconds all the way back to James Dowling in the 6th position, 7.5 to Olar Sarnquist, who leads in amateur. It is simply a quiet day here at Bathurst. We've seen some big hits. We've seen now 3 cars exit the race: Christian Clark, Dan Clark, and Sean Cole. It's just one of those races where it's full of attrition. It's one of the longer laps we have in the series. One of the more complicated laps we have all season long. And once again, take a look at the schedule. This is one of the tougher tracks we have. Next week, back to a proper circuit, Okayama. Everything's going to be a lot more closer together. Everything's going to be on top of each other. We're going to have, I think, a lot closer racing. It's a product of this racetrack. Then the following week, we go to Suzuka, and that will be a toughie for sure. That's going to be maybe where this car is kind of in its element, but also a lot more difficult to, I think, get every bit out of the car that you can. Long Beach, of course, might be the toughest on the schedule just because of all the walls and proximity to everybody else. Nowhere to go if something goes wrong. Then Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, Elkhart Lake, Road America, and Interlagos in Brazil. The final 3 races should be a lot more straightforward and classic circuit racing, where we might see this series really flourish. Terry Crouch now 15.5 seconds up on Chris Generelli. Certainly some setup work, and I know Terry always says he does very little setup work, but even the little bit that he does, and really just the practice going into the round, always matters so much. You can see very little damage, just a little bit to each front corner of the car, and popping some curbs. And Randall White, by the way, is actually closing on Pete Snake while leaving Andrus Slizens in his dust. And let's go on board with Randall, see how he's faring around this place. It's a difficult lap for sure, especially with that sun glare straight up into the cutting. That is not easy. Deep into the braking zone there. Randall White trying to find everything he can. And actually, if I'm Randall, go for it. Pete Snake may still make a mistake. Worst case, you just close in on him. Pete's got 30 seconds back or up to Christian Arelli. He's likely not going to drive too hard these last couple of laps. The delta between these two was 1.2 seconds or so the last time around. At that pace, no, Randall White won't catch him, but he'll get a whole lot closer. It'll only be a couple of seconds back in case something happens to the Get Pole Racing number 666. I really think Randall should push here. Get everything you can. He's already got it down about 6 seconds in closing. Get everything you can at every point in time, and you're working up more of a gap to Andrus Slizens. The only trouble is, of course, if you make a mistake, well, you shouldn't have been pushing, right? It's one of those certain hindsight moments where you can push and you can risk it. You might get something out of it. You can push if you want and make a mistake. And at this point in the race. If he doesn't push, he loses nothing. If he does push, he could lose something. But closing in under 5 seconds that time into turn number 2, and Randall just trying to find everything he can. He's finding it so far. Picks up another 10th. It's hard to say if he'll get there, even close, especially with only 5.5 minutes to go. But anything is something. Ola Sarnquist, by the way, 13 seconds up on Brandon Carl, who is now gone a lap down. Carl through the chase now. Terry Crouch headed down to Murray's Bend, Murray's Corner. And Terry Crouch will leave us with just 4 laps to go. Across the line that time by, I think it's actually going to be 3 laps, maybe. As we have 5 minutes to go. It was an expected 31 laps at the top of the day. We're on lap 28, and I think with the time, we'll have just 3 laps remaining. So again, can Randall White get there? Maybe not, but is it worth pushing? I think yes. You can start to see him up ahead, and who knows? Maybe a final lap move comes out of this as Randall White has closed in another half second. I think Pete Snake may have taken notice. Randall's tires may be wearing out. It's hard to say. The last lap delta was only 8 tenths, so certainly that gap is now slowing. But hey, worst case, he has made up a lot of time on Andrew Slizens, and I think can at least relax for that 4th position, even if he doesn't go podium. It's been a good day for Randall White at the office. Another 6 tenths there, and yeah, the pace is picked up for car 666. Pete, I think, taking notice again of these gains for Randall White. Randall's still making some headway, though. Turn 2. Let's see what he can do, and yeah, corner exit, man, he picks up a lot. It ebbs and it flows, though. It's best to check it on a straightaway. That's where it gives the best results, I feel like. Also, Ola Sarnquist is actually catching James Dowling with just 3.5 minutes to go. This may not be done. This would be a fight for no points between these guys, by the way, as well. Ola's already got max points for amateur. James Dowling already has 6th place points for pro. All the while, Terry Crouch wraps up another lap, begins a new one. 2 laps to go that time, I believe. Yeah, based on the time. That's a lot of glare headed up the hill to the cutting. 2 laps to go, though, for Terry Crouch. He has been sensational this season. It's going to be some extra points over his teammate, Randall White, after this one. It's already been a really good season, but this is going to really help car 59. It was a 9-point gap over Randall coming into today. Generelli not even in the top 10. 15th after making his first start last week at Barcelona. So that kind of puts a wrench in the plans for Randall White for sure. But then Pete Snake, 3rd in the standings. Not going to come close to passing Randall White after today. But will at least make up a little bit of ground. Slizens comes into today 4th, so not much is going to change there. James Dowling comes in 11th, 1 point behind Sean Cole. So Dowling will be in the top 10 for sure. Sean Cole will drop well out as Oldest Pudiclis has more trouble and is stopped as Sancinelli is forced to pit right at the closing moments of this race. Terry Crouch, this should be the white flag mark this time by. And then we're going to go check out that Randall White situation. He has made up even more time as we should have the white flag this time by. And yes, indeed, white flag, 1 lap to go. Presented by Whiplash Sim Cams for Terry Crouch. Final lap around Bathurst, a 30-lap race when it's all said and done. How about that? And as I said, Randall White won't necessarily get there, but he's going to get a whole lot closer just in case something happens. I mean, these guys are coming up on some lap traffic, I believe. At least they could at any point in time. Here's Pete Snake down the Conrad straight. There is a little bit of traffic up ahead, but a ways up ahead. And just in case something happens, the 84 car has grown a little larger in the mirror, now under 4 seconds, as Pete Snake will take 1 lap to go for himself. On the amateur side, there's Olaf Sarnquist, just a little ways ahead of Terry Crouch, trying to get that extra lap and guarantee the win. Ola's been good this season as well, as there you go, officially white flag, 1 lap to go. Just behind here, just behind Sarnquist is Christian Theis, who's going to go an extra lap down, or so it looks. Rough day for car 008. Was swept up in that, I believe, lap 1 or lap 2 accident. But he should definitely hang on to the race, or the points lead still after this one, as Terry Crouch exits the chase for the final time today. And with a couple of lap cars just ahead, Crouch will play nice and still win by nearly 20 seconds at Bathurst. An hour of racing dominated once again by Terry Crouch in the Simpit Radical Series. A big W for car 59 and TLDR Sim Sports. Generally into the final corner was a solid effort for sure out of the Orion driver, but Generelli not able to take any better than second place this evening. Pete Snake flying down the Conrad straight. Stays ahead of Randall White, but Randall's closing. It's within 2 seconds. It's still a large margin, but Pete's got to be absolutely perfect these last couple of corners. Randall still closing in. And what if Pete runs out of fuel? Maybe it's been a fuel battle this entire time, and that's why Randall's closed in. 1.3 seconds and closing, but it's not going to be enough for Randall White. Pete Snake will stay on the podium today at Bathurst. Across the line for third. Meanwhile, Ola Sarnquist has closed in on James Dowling, now within 2.4 seconds of the gap. And closing ever so slightly, Sarnquist has now been guaranteed the amateur race win, so congratulations to Ola. But he's still got to get down this Conrad straight through the chase in Murray's corner and back around to the start-finish line. That's sometimes easier said than done. Not at all worried about what Dowling is doing. Simply worried about finishing this final lap, and Ola Sarnquist has got himself a big old W for this season as well. And into the final corner for Ola Sarnquist, and it will be official for the number 13 to victory lane today in Australia. A big win for Ola Sarnquist, and across the line he goes. Brandon Carl, by the way, 8th place. Terry Crouch headed down, and I think we're going to have at least a couple of cars, I'd imagine, getting ready to do the jump here at Bathurst. But while those guys prepare for that, let's take a look at your unofficial race results. Terry Crouch with the win. Led every single lap of 30. Oh no, actually led all but 1 lap, as Generelli did get him for 1 lap in that final pit cycle. Christian Generelli goes second, 20.779 seconds between the two. Pete Snake, 58 seconds off the lead. Randall White close behind there for 4th. Then Andrews Slizens and James Dowling, 5th and 6th. Ola Sarnquist, 7th, will take the amateur win. A lap ahead of Brandon Carl, Mike Nickham, and Kenneth Stepp. Finishing 11th, it's Nick Batista. Christian Theis will finish in the 12th position. Then Callum McLeod, David Clymer, Ed Sancinelli, Oxenzoller there, 16th, and a lot of heartbreaks for these guys. Oldest Pudiclis, 17th spot. Christian Clark, Dan Clark, Sean Cole, the remainder of the field. And, well, we had at least one attempt at Randall White. Couldn't get over the jump. Olaf Sarnquist could be getting ready for one here. Pete Snake not attempting today. And, hey, Sancinelli is voting it down. Here's a look at Schultheis. Do we have a jump attempt in the making? We'll see. Sarnquist just ahead is going to get there first. You see the two in frame. I think we've got a jump attempt. Olaf Sarnquist straight into the gravel trap. Schultheis going to follow in the background. And yes, successful jump up and over. Better landing, though, for Schultheis. A little bit of fun here after the checkered flag. And that is how you wrap things up at Bathurst. Once again, thanks for watching. That was certainly appreciated this afternoon. We definitely missed Justin Prince on the call, but glad that he was able to take a bit of rest today and make sure his voice is ready to go for all of the shows that he does the rest of this week, I'm sure. Probably has one later today, even so. And we await the arrival of race winner Terry Crouch. While we do, let's take a look at our upcoming broadcast here at Pit Stop TV. First up, tomorrow night, we go to Martinsville Speedway for the iRacing Cars Late Model Stock Tour. Then Wednesday evening, we head off to another short track in the same area. Just across state lines, though, in North Carolina, it's the North Wilkesboro Speedway. On Wednesday evening at 9 Eastern, a couple of really good Carolina and Virginia short tracks. One with late model stock cars, one with NASCAR Gen 7 Cup cars. Before Thursday, it's the return of the North American Racing League to Pit Stop TV after a couple of months off between their GT3 season and their Porsche Cup season. We kick things off at Detroit Belle Isle for season number 3 in the Porsche Cup cars. And a big change up there as well as we head back over to the Porsche Cup cars, away from GT3 cars. A big change up. Of course, you can catch any of these broadcasts on Pit Stop TV at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Twitch. Sorry, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch. Instagram as well for social media updates. We would certainly like to have you along for the ride. As Terry Crouch has finally joined us. A little bit delayed in joining the channel, but Terry, there was no delay in putting you on top of the board in practice, qualifying, and the race. 29 laps led out of 30, and domination once again. No Reinhard Heibel in the field means you were able to simply go to work, and you did pretty solid.
Yeah, I really missed Reinhard. Sorry I was late responding.
Oh, 1 second. We don't have audio yet from... Well, it's on my end, Terry. I'll let you restart. Sorry about that.
Oh, as long as it's on your end. You hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, missed Reinhardt. Sorry I was late. Was trying to get everybody into the waiting room. Some of the guys that had finished in the top 2 for the first time didn't know where to go. But it was, without Reinhardt, it's a little rough. This is fast. I mean, we were relatively even on pace, so I didn't know how it was going to go. This place is always the great equalizer. You can be fast and tap a wall, and then your whole day's ruined. So, the win's just a bonus. Just to survive is good.
Yeah, and I mentioned that this is one of the tougher tracks on the schedule, but there are still tougher tracks yet to go. Okayama, though, next week, kind of a more traditional circuit. A little tight, though, in some spots. How do you feel?
I'll tell you next week. I don't know. I think it seems to match up pretty well, I think, because the camber in some of the corners, you got the flat back section. There's some moves that can be made. There's some things you can do with the inputs to really extract speed out of the car. So it should be pretty fun.
And we saw something from Brandon Carl today. It didn't really work in the grand scheme of things because of where he was in his battle, but a 2-tire stop on that second of 2 stops. Is that I guess, more of an option with some of these hotter track temps? So we saw this is one of the hotter tracks we've seen this season at only 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Still not hot, but at least a little warmer. Do you think that'll be an option for some tracks?
I don't know that the temp is as big a deal as the camber here is. If you throw it into the camber and don't slide it, you can say my tires were like 94% at the stop, but I just didn't want to risk it because coming down the hill through Skyline, you make one mistake, one bobble, one unexpected thing, and your day's over. So you can definitely get away with it. If Carl did, that's actually pretty surprising, pretty cool, because I thought Carl would try and be as safe as he could be. So that's pretty neat.
Well, there you go. Terry Crouch, 29 lap sled. Kind of a cut and dry day for you, Terry. I think those are always appreciated when you're trying to go after a consistency-based championship like we are here. So congratulations to you. We'll see you next week in Japan.
Thank you. That's always the goal, just string these things together and not have a season like last season where it's up and down, up and down.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually theorized briefly about whether or not this was more so the car or more so you growing as a driver. You do a lot of league racing. What do you feel like? Is it more the car for you this season or more just growth as a driver?
I think it's a little of both. I never drove GTEs much. They don't just agree with me as much as this car does. So GT3s, Formula 3s, things like that I can drive really well, but GTEs are just, for whatever reason, my kryptonite last season.
Well, there you go. A bit of an answer there out of Terry Crouch. Terry, thank you for your time. Congratulations once again.
Thanks, man. You always do such a good job.
We do appreciate it. Terry, with another big race win this season, let's grab somebody who doesn't quite get a win, though. Second place in amateur competition, Brandon Carl. A new look on the car, certainly new cars, really, for most everybody in the field. But Brandon, you handled Bathurst tonight with just about extreme elegance. No scratches on the car. How do you do that for an hour of racing?
You ask me. I don't know. Every time I get in a league race here, it doesn't matter what car, I just find myself to the front. It's just not going 100%, maybe going like 90, 95% a lap, just kind of just running the laps there just to let the chaos ensue, and you kind of approach it like a restrictor plate track. You just kind of just let the chaos ensue and just hope you don't get caught up in it. That's what I did today. I did have one mistake on the last pit stop there. I accidentally took tires. I didn't want to, and I unchecked it before I took full tires, and so I ran the rear new front tires on that last stop, and it kind of threw off the balance of the car, and I was just kind of just riding out till the end there. I couldn't find any pace to catch Ola at all. He was a masterclass in the M division today.
And Brandon, initially I wondered if that stop was intentional as far as taking the two front tires. So no benefit there as far as taking two fronts. What about taking two rears? Do you think it would still be just too unbalanced?
This race actually didn't have that much tire wear. I think it was like 97, 96 after two stints of tires, or two pin stops there. And so I took 4 on the first start there and looked at my thing. I was like, oh, wow, only 99% wear on like all 4 sides. It was this track, for some reason, this track and this car didn't wear the tires that much as I thought it would.
Well, it's a bit of a different game next week at Okayama International Circuit. A different one for sure, one of the free tracks that iRacing comes with. So a lot of drivers have experience there in slower cars, but a faster, kind of mid-level downforce car like the Radical is going to be a little tricky there. How do you feel?
It's going to be an interesting one here. I mean, my strategy is to just try to go for wins as best as I can here. I missed the last 2 races. I didn't have power in internet 2 Sundays ago, or 3 Sundays ago, and then last Sunday I had a bit of a home emergency. I had to fix something before I could race, and then it ended up taking until about like 3 o'clock before I ended up fixing it. So, like I said, Okayama is a decent little track. It's going to be a lot of slow corners too, so I don't know how much downforce is going to play into that. So it's going to be Mazda speed times 2, something like that. So just probably going to be like this week, just kind of just hopefully avoid all the chaos and see what happens.
And Brandon, I see the Twitch link there on your car. Tell everybody watching where they can find you and what you stream.
Yes, it's www.twitch.tv/BCXCarl. That's www.twitch.tv/BCXCarl. I usually stream when I'm not working. if you ever catch me on the track, I have the anime rendition of the Permanent Waves Lady. It's on the front of my nose of the car this time. It's always somewhere there, and just I always like to stream iRacing. I'll stream BeamNG a couple times. I might dabble in some other random games, but yeah, 90% of the time it's iRacing.
There you go, Brandon Carl from second place in amateur, 8th on the racetrack overall. Brandon, congratulations. A job well done, certainly over an hour of racing. Can't wait to see what you can do in Japan the next 2 weeks.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I do want to give a shout out. I know you're in the NASCAR shitposting Facebook group too. I'm in that one too.
Well, there you go, Brandon Carl with, yeah, I didn't realize that. Brandon, once again.
Yeah, I knew, I seen you in there a couple times. It's a good little group there. Get a shout out to them. Maybe not. It's toxic as hell.
Just like to lurk and watch it all happen. Brandon, thanks for your time.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah, you too, man.
Brandon Carl with didn't expect that one. Olaf Sarnquist, it looks like not available for us this afternoon, but we do have Christian Raleigh who goes second overall. And Chris, it was a long race of watching the gap grow. It looks like to Terry Crouch, but how do you manage that over the course of an hour at Bathurst, just trying to get everything you can out of the car?
Lots of practice, you know. Terry's great. I mean, I was able to match him for one lap, but you know, I would go 3 or 4 laps with him and then make a little bobble, and then 3 or 4 laps and make a bobble, and next thing you know, it's 4 seconds and it's 8 seconds, and then it's like, all right, I'm not catching him, and you know, he's real good.
Your fast laps, by the way, were 1/1000th of a second apart. Did you realize that?
Yeah, I saw that. I have that on one of my displays, and I was like, all right, I'm with you. I'm gonna come get you, Terry, but just couldn't do it. So I was planning on doing a fuel save for the first 2 stops, and the pace was too fast. Oldest was on my butt. I'm like, if I start fuel saving, I might lose Terry. I might lose Oldest. I was like, all right, screw this. I'm going, you know, all out. So
how much of a pressure was Oldest earlier in the race?
Very much pressure. A lot. He, especially going up the hill, because I was like, you know, he must have had a higher downforce setup than I did, and you know, he was 2/10, 3/10 behind me going up the hill. And then, you know, he was in the draft. So I was like, I've got to try to break the draft or do something, you know, because there's no way I have the concentration to go an hour with him on my bumper.
Well, Chris, it was good to see you back on track. I know you've only run a couple of races now this season, last week and now today here at Bathurst. Hopefully we'll see a bit more of you the next couple of weeks in Japan. We'll see you there, Okayama, next week. How do you feel?
You know, I love this car. I love the tracks that we have. Unfortunately, real life gets in the way sometimes. So, you know, I miss the Sundays. I'm on the East Coast, so 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon in the spring is tough. My son plays baseball. He's going to visit colleges for football. So, you know, when I have the open Sundays, I'm here. I practice like hell during the week just in case I'm here. But, yeah, it's definitely tough. But I think I'll be here next weekend. So, you know, that should be good.
Well, we look forward to it for sure. Chris, congratulations. Second place tonight. That is no easy feat.
Thank you. And, guys, thanks for the broadcast. You guys do a great job. Thanks to Gomez. You know, it's awesome that you guys, you know, broadcast the races. It's pretty cool.
We certainly do appreciate the support this season from Gomez and Industries, kind of doubling down on what they did last season. Chris, again, thank you for your time. Hopefully we can see you in a few more races this season, a bit more regularly. That's the hope anyway.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Christian Raleigh there from second place in the results. Next up, Mike Nickham, a podium in amateur, a big step up today for car 56, and really it comes at the result of attrition. Mike, usually we see you kind of around the 4th, 5th position in amateur, but what elevated you today? It seemed like you just had to outlast those guys.
Well, this is one of my better tracks, and you know, attrition is going to get a certain amount of cars here always, and I just thought if I just kept my nose clean on the first couple of laps, that maybe it would work out. And it did.
Well, it definitely worked out in a whole lot more. 3rd place and not too far back from Brandon Carl after an hour of racing. That takes a lot out of you. I don't really ask drivers too often, but how do you feel after an hour of racing at Bathurst?
Yeah, my arms are a little sore, and definitely ready to have a cocktail.
And what about Bathurst do you like more than other tracks? Do you just feel more comfortable on like a country road over the mountain, or what goes on?
Yeah, it's like a mini Nordschleife, and that's my absolute favorite track, and this is probably my second favorite. It's a similar feel. It's just like a mini Nord. I just really like this type of track, up and down.
And Mike, I don't think we've talked to you before. What is the story behind the Batmobile that you seem to run on every car that you run on iRacing?
Oh, it's just kind of my sense of humor. I thought it looked cool in these type of cars, and so I just started running it, and then all of a sudden it kind of stuck. So I'm just running it on every car now.
Well, I really do like it. It's one of the few cars that we can pick out from anywhere in the grid of 20, 30 cars. I really do appreciate a livery like that. Mike, congratulations. 3rd place in amateur tonight, top 10 overall, and that's going to help big time in the standings. We'll see you in Japan the next couple of weeks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time. And Mike Nickham, 3rd place tonight this afternoon, whatever you want to call it, in amateur. A big step up for Mike, and I think the first of many to come as far as podiums and top 10s overall. That'll do it for us as far as on-track product today as we hit 321 on the East Coast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This usually would be myself and Justin Prince behind the mic, but Justin not able to attend today, taking care of his throat a little bit, and he might have more shows later, but I'm glad he was at least able to rest for a couple of hours. So Justin, if you do watch this back, thank you for what you've done with us so far. Can't wait to get you back in the booth. I'm glad you're resting, though, and hopefully you get better very, very soon. It sounds like might be a little bit of a flu bug or something going around for Justin. Hopefully he gets over that one quick. Let's take one more look at the schedule this season. Spa and Zandvoort, Spain, and now Bathurst crossed off the list. Okayama next up, a kind of a classic layout there. And one that used to be on Formula 1 calendars, one that has been on many a Mazda calendar for Rookie Series and Formula V and everything else on iRacing, a free included track. I really appreciate any time a league adds Okayama to the schedule. I'm excited to see how that goes on April 30th, 1 week from today. One more time through the upcoming broadcasts here on the channel. Monday, tomorrow night, April 24th, we go to Martinsville Speedway with the iRacing Cars Late Model Stock Tour, brought to you by RaceEPI.com. Wednesday, we go to North Wilkesboro Speedway with the UFL Elite Series for round 2 of their first round of the playoffs. Race 2, I should say, of their first round. And Thursday evening, we kick back off with the North American Racing League Porsche Cup Series, starting off an 8-race schedule from Detroit on the streets. Once again, that'll do it for us this evening from Bathurst. Thanks again for tuning in. A big shout out to Gomez Industries allowing us to do this every Sunday afternoon. It is certainly appreciated what they put in here to the series. For those who make it happen for us, behind the scenes in audio, ATVO, Whiplash Media Simcams, OBS, and iRacing.com, thank you all so much. We will see you all next time, hopefully tomorrow night, from Martinsville Speedway for some late model racing.